Speaking at the summit for a new Global Financing Pact in Paris on Friday, Mr. Macron argued that actions from individual governments would be insufficient to deal with the alleged armageddon set to descend upon the world, and therefore a new international taxation framework should be established. I'm in favor of an international taxation to finance efforts that we have to make to fight poverty and in terms of climate action, the French president said in comments reported by Politico. It doesn't work when you do it alone, the financial flows go elsewhere, Macron added, while shutting down calls for France to implement a new wealth tax to fund the green agenda. France already has in place two types of taxes that have been suggested, one on plane tickets, another on financial transactions, he said, adding that he was going to make others follow us and mobilize around these issues. There has been a great deal of discussion on the idea of international taxation, over and above what countries and institutions are doing. Whether it's on financial transactions, maritime transport, or certain other models, it will only work if it's truly international, and so it presupposes an agreement, as we've been able to do on international taxation, he said. Macron suggested that the Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, could be tapped for a negotiation process in the hopes of creating a global climate tax system for multinational corporations. The French president, who is just 1 year into his second term, has faced months of turmoil in his own country, starting in earnest last autumn amid the growing cost of living crisis in France and indeed throughout much of Europe as a result of the lockdowns and the failure of green energy to supply enough power to make up for lost Russian energy following the war in Ukraine. The protests in France, which often devolved into riots and acts of vandalism, were often attributed solely to Macron's controversial pension reforms, which raised the retirement age to 62 to 64 years old. However, this was just the final straw for the working classes in their view of the government of the former Rothschild banker. Last year, the globalist leader proclaimed that the people of France are living through the end of abundance, without acknowledging his own government's role in the perpetuating policies, including the green agenda, that resulted in the economic devastation.